Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another Minnesota Twins discussion video. As you can see right there, that is the 2020 schedule that was just released about an hour ago for the Minnesota Twins next season. And we're going to go through every single game, as you can see it right here, but every single game, and let you guys know who's going to be tough and if we have a chance next year. So, I mean, obviously this is early, but we're going to be basing it off of, how the teams have done this year, and we'll just see how it goes. So, as you know, the schedule is built so that the Minnesota Twins, in this case, or any team, will face every single team at their home and at their away in their league, their AL or their NL league. And obviously the Twins are in the AL, so they will face every AL team at the home and at their away ballparks. Also, every 3 years, they rotate through the NL divisions. So NL East is who they played this year with the Braves, the Nationals, Marlins, Mets, etc. So you've got that. Then last year they played the Cubs, St. Louis, Milwaukee, all of them. And the year before that they played the NL West, the Dodgers, the Giants, the Padres, the Rockies, and the Diamondbacks. That's who they're going back to this year. So that is a very good division out there. It should be exciting to see the Twins play some of them. And then, of course, their division opponents, Indians, Royals, White Sox, and Tigers. So let's go through it. The season will start on March 26th this year. That is so early. I don't know why it is so early. It keeps moving about a couple of days into March every single year. They're starting on March 26th this year. I think it was the same day as they started last year, but it's just since it's leap year and the days are kind of weird. We get to start on the 26th instead of the 29th or 28th or something like that. So 26th is the official opening day for the Minnesota Twins, except for it won't be in Minnesota this year. It will be in Oakland. How about that? That'll be a fun 4-game series to start off the season in Oakland, and then we go to Seattle. So realistically, if you're looking at this season, that's going to be a great first series, and then hopefully you can get on the right track with Seattle, who has really been struggling. So there you go. That's the first week of the season. I won't be going over, predictions per se, because we'll do that next year, but just to allow you guys to see the schedule. Then we go home. Our home opener is against Oakland. I'm not really a big fan of this because, this year it was Cleveland. I don't remember who it was last year, but why Oakland is my guess. I would have much rather seen them flip Cleveland and Oakland here. Oakland and then the day off, 2 games on Saturday, Sunday, and then Cleveland during the midweek series. I am not a fan of that. You're already talking about early April, right? In Minnesota and early March, right? Who knows if the games will even be played, but I just don't like that as a builder for the season. Why are you playing Cleveland the first time of the season midweek? That doesn't make sense to me. But then we go to the White Sox and Toronto, very winnable games. The schedule is built this year, so it's like every other week they're home and away. I kind of like that. So they're away that week, of course. Still going to be snowing and all that in Minnesota, so try to go, where there's a dome or where it's a little bit warmer, maybe. Chicago, who really knows about that, but so, winnable games there, Detroit, and then Seattle again. We get Seattle, which is that little tiny line right up. I guess you can't see it, but you see where I'm talking about. A little tiny line right there. Our first 10-game homestand comes the second homestand of the season. We get Detroit, Seattle, and Boston. That'll be fun. End of May right there, the last full weekend in May, so that'll be a lot of fun to see, the Red Sox. They're a good team, and now that's the first month of the season pretty much. We do go on the road to the Dodgers. The Dodgers close out the month of April, which is very, very fun. So very good teams that we get to face early in the year. Hopefully, we'll do well like we did this year, May, March, April, those months were our good months, and hopefully we can continue that this season. So let's go to the next month, May. We start we finish April on the road, and we continue on the road into May, where we face the Angels. That'll be fun. We did well this year in LA. It's a very same trip, right? You go LA, so that's nice. Not too much travel time there. Hopefully they can get a couple of wins with the Dodgers and be ready to go versus the Angels. I really like that about the schedule. And then we get another homestand with the Giants. That'll be fun. The Giants, the last time we played the Giants in the NL West was in San Francisco, so that was a lot of fun. It'll be great to see them at home. Then we get Kansas City, of course. Our first time we get to face Kansas City. We did face the White Sox, obviously, on the road. Detroit was our first, or I guess Cleveland was our first home division team, but then White Sox, Detroit, and Kansas City. So through the first month, we'll have already faced every single team in the division at least once, which is nice, and we can get to see them right away. And then we continue with the AL Central opponents. We get Detroit and Cleveland on the road. A lot of days here where we're playing games. I mean, you look at the schedule here. You've got where it's over here. You've got the 7th of May off, and then the next day they get off is May 25th. Now, they don't play a lot of tough teams during this time. You've got Kansas City at home, not away, which is nice. But then you've got, Detroit, bottom of the division. Cleveland on the road. That's going to be kind of tough. But then Baltimore at home and the White Sox at home to round off that long stretch of playing games. It is a lot. I mean, that is almost 2.5 weeks where they play every single day. So that is going to be a tough stretch. Not so much with the opponents, but playing every single day. Hopefully we can get a couple of wins since it's not against the toughest opponents. But it'll be fun. That'll be fun because that sets us up for a very good stretch in the next 2 weeks. We get a day off, of course, and then to end off the month of May, the Yankees and the White Sox. So, of course, the White Sox aren't incredibly good. I mean, we understand that they're okay, but to come off of the Yankee series, that'll be a ton of fun. And they actually only play a 2-game series versus the White Sox on the 29th. Or just kidding. I was looking at Sunday the next day. My bad. So they do play the 3-game series there against the White Sox. Back-to-back weekends, they play the White Sox there. So let's go to June. June, we start off, as I mentioned, the second half of the 2 weeks where we're playing very good teams. We get Tampa Bay at home and the LA Angels for 4 games. We just had another 4-game set 2 weeks ago with the White Sox. That was a lot of fun, I'm sure. Again, we're a good team. They're okay. It should be fun. But then the turnaround and come back home for another 4-game series against the Angels. The last time I'll play the Angels this year. That'll be great because then we get to play Baltimore and Kansas City again in the middle of June. Of course, the weather is starting to heat up now in Minnesota. That's great because you know how well, we kind of did well in the cold this year, but you know what? It's really unpredictable. I would rather have the Twins playing in warm weather. So they get, hopefully warm weather at the beginning of June there with Tampa Bay and the Angels, but then go on the road to Kansas City and Baltimore. Again, not the worst teams in the league. But now, this is, I believe, one of our 2 toughest stretches after that Kansas City game. On the 16th of June, we get Milwaukee for 2 games, the border battle as it usually is, 2 games, and then we'll play them 2 games on the road again later in the season, but 2 games at home. 4 games against the Yankees and 3 games in Houston. That is going to be an absolute brutal stretch if these teams continue to play as they are this season. That is absolutely going to be tough. And it doesn't really get easier with Colorado. It is at home. It's not away, which is nicer, I think, to play Colorado at home. Not that they're the most scary team, but you know how Coors Field is. So that's going to be a tough stretch right in the middle of June. And, we didn't do great in June this year. So if that carries over to next year, that'll be very interesting to see. I think it will be a fun stretch. That's going to be probably one of our 2 toughest stretches, though, but should be fun. Then we go Colorado, and to end out the month of June, Detroit and Cleveland starting into the month of July. So that'll be another series, coming off this brutal, hard series, in my opinion at least. That might be a little bit easier because if, Detroit's not going to do anything, they're still rebuilding. Cleveland, obviously, a good team, but if we can, beat them, that'll get us back into the race if we are out of it at that point because of that stretch, or it could help us, secure our lead. Also, it could, do the opposite and get them back in the division, but that's not the point. We get to play them a couple of times at the end of the season, too. So I'm not too worried about it. But then we go into the middle of July, back at home, Kansas City and Toronto. First time we get to see Toronto this season at home in the middle of July for a 4-game set. Should be easy. That goes into the All-Star break. So not a tough month of July besides the Cleveland Indians, maybe Toronto, depending on how good their rookies, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Biggio, and Bichette do. So that'll be fun to wrap up the series, the first half of the season, I should say, going into the All-Star break. Of course, the All-Star break is at Dodger Stadium this year. Well, it's whatever. But then we start a 10-game road trip coming off of the break. I mean, the month of July, we are only home for 10 games. So we play a lot of games at home in June and May, even March and April. But starting in July, we really go on the road a lot. We start with Texas. Texas is a struggling team. Will they continue to struggle next year? Who knows? The first time we see Texas this season. And, who knows? Who really knows? Then we go play Arizona. We do play a couple more NL West teams, but we get Arizona right in the middle of July. They're going to be a good team, I'm sure, as they were last year. And we round off the the road trip with a 4-game set against the White Sox. That'll be fun again. Just division opponents to end road trips or homestands, I think, are the best because that allows you to really get into the groove of things, see how you compete in the division. That'll be fun. But then, so here we go. We just went on a 10-day road trip. This is the second time that I think we have probably one of the toughest teams that we get to face. So we go on a 10-day road trip against some struggling teams. Maybe Arizona's going to be okay. Maybe the White Sox will be better next year. But then we get 2 games against the Dodgers, 3 games against Houston, and 3 games against Cleveland. Now, this is all at home, right? So we get the toughest, I would say the toughest teams. We get them at home, right? Going back to June, Milwaukee, New York, and Houston. Houston is on the road right there. But then we get Dodgers at home, Houston at home, and Cleveland at home. Again, Cleveland being the mid-game series. I'm not really a fan of that, but that's crazy. I mean, that is going to be, again, one of the tougher parts of our schedule, and we struggled in June and July this season. If that continues next year, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble, especially during that part of the season. Not that we'd be out of it, but just like this year, we had an 11.5 game lead. If they can come back, talking about Cleveland, in that series, who knows? The beginning of August, just like this year, basically the same thing, but a week prior, could be, a really close race for the division, and that'll be a lot of fun. But again, during this stretch, we don't have a lot of games off. We get 2 games off on the July 27th. I guess you can see it right here. We get 2 games off July 27th and July 30th surrounding the Dodgers games. And then we go Houston, Cleveland, Kansas City, Boston, and Kansas City again. So that's 5 consecutive series without a day off. Of course, that's going to be the toughest part of it, the Dodgers, Houston, Cleveland. But then Kansas City on the road is not easy. Boston in Fenway is not easy. That is going to be, again, a very tough stretch of games. But it should be fun. I keep saying that because it should be fun. We're a good team. These are good teams. There are going to be really good battles between these guys. But just think about that. From the 28th of July, even going back to the 17th of July, since it's a road trip, that stretch from the 17th of July until August 16th, that is a month straight of playing good teams in not favorable conditions. I mean, obviously being home against these good teams helps, but they're good teams. They're going to compete, right? It's going to be crazy next year. So of course we get the series versus Kansas City in the middle of August back at home. 2 games against the White Sox, just a mid-game series. I guess I'm not sure why that was really scheduled because I can't find the other 2-game series that we play against the White Sox. It just didn't really make sense to me, but I guess you just throw it in there and it works, I guess. I'm not really sure why it's not a 3-game series, but hey, I mean, they're doing them. I mean, like I said, we have so many 4-game series this year at home, or to wrap up weekends like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know why they just threw a 2-game series against the White Sox in there at home, but okay, I guess it's what it is. We get to play Detroit to round off that homestand. It's a 10-game homestand, or it's not actually. It is a 6+3. It's a 9-game homestand with 2 off days in there. So I guess that is what it is. But end off that homestand. So hopefully, coming off of those days off, this will be our time where we can really do well. I'm hoping, we stay in the division race until then and get these, easier teams. The White Sox, the Tigers, Milwaukee on the road. I mean, that could be iffy, but we get these teams with these days off at the end of August and into September where we can really shine and do well and make a push for the playoffs. So we get Detroit, then we go to Milwaukee, Tampa Bay to finish off the month of August, and Cleveland and the White Sox at home, the beginning of September. This is when things really start getting good. Of course, you play most of your division opponents in the later half of the season. Cleveland in early September is going to be freaking awesome. I mean, hopefully both teams are as competitive as they are this year, but if they compete like they had these last, couple of games last weekend, that is going to be awesome, hopefully for the division lead again. We get the White Sox. That could be, easy. I'm sorry, but again, the only thing is, every single time we've played Cleveland this year, we do not play Cleveland on a weekend. So why? Why are we doing that? You get Cleveland midweek in the middle of September. You get Cleveland midweek I'm talking about at home. You get Cleveland midweek in the middle of September, Cleveland midweek in the middle of April, and Cleveland midweek in the middle of August. Why are they not any weekend games? I mean, think about it. This year, the first game of the series, the first series of the year was at home, but it was a weekend series. Then we get another one just this past weekend. Why are they doing that? The biggest two teams in the AL Central, and they aren't even going to be on the weekend series? That's just disappointing. Again, I think you should just flip the homes ones, or like the first home opener with Cleveland and Oakland. But then why not flip? I mean, obviously it's more than just flipping, but like, why the White Sox instead of the Indians? And then we get the Indians again during the midweek during their home stand in the middle of September. We get Detroit on the road as well. And then we finish it out with Texas, Detroit, San Diego, the last of the NL West, and Kansas City. Very winnable opponents in September. Meaningful games, right? Against Cleveland if we're still in it. Maybe the White Sox are going to be good next year. Those are going to be meaningful games. And hopefully, like I said, we'll be in it and we'll be able to compete and we'll do fine. But that is crazy. It's a crazy schedule, a very hard, I would say it's a difficult schedule, especially, especially right after the All-Star break, going into those 10-game road trips and then the 3 series against very tough teams. Also, the middle of June when that gets tough. There are some really good games in here, some really good series, and some really good times, because that is really going to tell you how the Twins will stack up against the Indians, against the Dodgers, against, the Astros during these tough stretches, right? When pretending it's postseason, when you go Dodgers, Yankees, World Series, right? So, you go Houston, Yankees, World Series, I guess. But you know what I'm saying. So it's a tough schedule. I mean, you guys could look at it right here as I mentioned it, going through it all. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's going to be a crazy next season. It was a lot of fun this season. It's not over yet. Of course, we're in a great playoff race with Cleveland right now. But just setting up for next season, man, this should be a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I want to know your guys' thoughts on it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.